guys, welcome back for the third and probably final video on vinegars. Share with you a few things that I've learned along the way because like you, I'm fairly new to this. So just kind of taking you through the different stages of vinegar making from start to finish. So here we have like week 1, week 2 and 3, 4, 5 and 6 plus. And you can see that I've got an airlock on these first weeks, and that is a change from what I previously did in my other videos. Not that those videos were wrong, but showing you a few little nuances that I learned. So let's go ahead and start kind of in the beginning processes and work our way up. So what I learned was that for a stronger vinegar, you want to add some yeast in the first week, the first stage of the process, and you want it airlocked. You don't want that yeast in an open environment. You're more than fine to follow the other suggestions that I put in the videos before, but you do want an anaerobic environment to start your wine. So the stronger the wine, the stronger the vinegar is in the end product. Some of the vinegars that I had just weren't as strong as I liked them to be, and so it all depends on the sugar content of the fruit and what yeasts are naturally occurring on the fruit. But a safe bet is to always add a brewer's yeast in the beginning stages, and that will help make a stronger wine, which will help make a stronger vinegar in the end. So one thing to note is that you want a brewer's yeast, so a beer yeast, a wine yeast, a champagne yeast. You don't want just a normal bread yeast, because that'll give a definite off flavor. So here I've got some pomegranate. I've just quartered them up. You can see the arils are still attached to the membrane and the outer shell there. But I'm going to add half a cup of sugar to this. There is natural sugars in the pomegranate, but as we're adding extra yeast, we're going to want to add extra sugar just to make sure. Here is some brewer's yeast that I bought off of Amazon. So I'm going to add about a teaspoon and a half of this brewer's yeast. And then I'm going to fill this with water. Alright, and then I'm going to give it a good stir so that all of the sugar and the yeast and everything is submerged and mixed well so that it can start activating. And then I am going to put one of these airlock stoppers on here. So these lids can be bought on Amazon in groups of 4. You can see I've got the plastic lids and the metal lids. It wouldn't matter for vinegar at all. So let me just kind of show you what these look like. So there's the lid that has the hole in it and a gasket, and then you have these 2 plastic pieces. This is going to go inside, and you'll put that in the hole there, and then you're going to fill this with water. And you'll see that centerpiece will start to float after the yeast starts building up. So as the yeast is eating the sugar and converting it into alcohol, that the gases that are formed will start to fill up here, and they'll start to gas out through that inner piece there. You can see on this one, this one's a little bit further along, and so the middle piece is floating, and it'll start chugging away. Anyway, so we're going to set that aside. I will show you an up-close video of this one, which is a rice vinegar, and a close-up of that so you can see exactly what that looks like. So these ones have stopped popping up and down, and the yeast has stopped converting the sugar into alcohol. So what we need to do is strain that off, and then we will put it in a aerobic environment, which so that the oxygen can get in there. So the first step is creating an alcohol, which is without air. You don't want oxygen breathing on that in that first process. But when you're taking the wine into the vinegar stage, you do want oxygen to make it in there. So we're going to take this lid off, and just for lack of time, you would strain it off and just have the liquid, and then cover it with a towel. So this is one that I filtered it once and strained it off, but you can see that there's still a lot of sediment here. This is my fig vinegar, and so I am just going to put it in my yogurt strainer. I highly recommend these. These are on Amazon as well. It's a very fine mesh strainer. There's two different kinds. There's a plastic mesh and there's a metal mesh. I highly recommend the metal mesh for this. And you're just going to pour it in here and leave it so that it strains all the way through. Then we'll wash out the vessel and pour the liquid back in here just to reuse. But you can see that this is going to take a little while to filter all down, but it will leave us with more pure liquid. And then I go ahead and take all of this sediment that is fermented and feed that to my chickens. They love it. We're just going to set that aside and leave it for a minute. And we are going to decant this one. So this one has been filtered twice. This is an orange vinegar. This is at week 6. So we are just going to decant this into this vessel for storage. These little cones come with this kit here. And so we are just going to decant that out. This smells so good, you guys. This orange vinegar. This was made with the actual orange and the peels of the orange. You can make it with either or, but this was from some little cutie mandarin oranges, and it smells delicious. So one thing that you want to do for the first week or so is not have the topper cap on super tight. You want it to be able to breathe in case any extra gases are popping out of there. Because if you just locked it in and it builds up too much pressure, it might bust your jar. So I've heard. I've never had it happen to me, but I don't want to clean up that mess. So I leave them just tight so that it's a pretty good lock on there, but not super tight. So you can see here, I've got many different vinegars: blackberry, pomegranate, peach, banana, blueberry, all of the different kinds, and they're all about 7 to 8 weeks along. And at that time they're done gassing off, so I go ahead and lock them. And since this is a probiotic mix, the mother is still in here. This is going to take on some skin sometimes. You're going to see some sediment around the bottom. That is totally fine. It's good for your gut health. But if anybody comes to your house and they're going to be like, "Oh, it's growing mold," but it's not. I promise. It's just the mother growing on the top, and it's just a good all-natural vinegar for you. So anyway, one thing that I learned along the way was that I really like to dip bread in oil and vinegar for a snack, and this vinegar kind of let me down a little bit. I was like, ew, this is just not the same kind of vinegar that I want to be dipping my bread in, because it's basically just water. It's not that kind of thick, viscous vinegar that you would buy commercially, right? So I set out to kind of learn how to do that, and the easy answer is an Instapot. You can do this on the stovetop, but it's going to take a lot longer and a lot more babysitting, versus if you have an Instapot that has a yogurt setting on it, it's perfect, because it's not going to kill the bacteria, and the yogurt feature goes from 108 degrees to 112 degrees Fahrenheit, and the living bacteria in these vinegars gets killed at the 120 mark. So it's going to keep that active, and you're going to want to just reduce this vinegar down. Here are two different versions of a pineapple vinegar. So this one was reduced for 1 day, and this was reduced for 2 days. And so I'm going to show you an already commercially available balsamic vinegar. This is a strawberry balsamic, and compared to the viscosity of these two. Alright, here is a loaf of sourdough I just barely pulled out of the oven, so it's nice and hot and fresh. We're just going to cut into this. Boom. This is the pineapple. Oh my gosh, that is delicious. Homemade, pure vinegar, pure pineapple vinegar. Alright, so one last thing that I wanted to show y'all was my SCOBY hotel, or my hotel of mothers. So this is where I take and place all of the mothers that are growing on my vinegars and put them in here, so that when I go through the process, when I'm changing from anaerobic to aerobic environments, I can take one of these mothers out and put it in here, and that will kickstart the bacteria formation process and change the wine to vinegar much quicker. So this is a cranberry vinegar. Oh, and just since I brought it over here, I shook it up and the mother floated to the bottom. So I'm gonna get a longer spoon. All right, and we're going to pull this mother out. All right, this is a super gelatinous, slimy mother. And we just place it in here. And you want to make sure that there's enough vinegar to cover all of the mothers, so it kind of evaporates. So I'm just going to pour just a little bit of this vinegar in there to keep it submerged. Anyway, so this one is also ready to decant and keep on your shelf. So these are my watery vinegars, and my viscous dipping vinegars are going to go in different vessels. Any of these can be used in anything. If you're cooking stir fries, or if you're cleaning, you can use this to clean windows or mop the floor. I know it sounds kind of weird, but vinegar is a super great cleaning agent. It can be used out of any of the vinegars. So some that I've got going are some herb vinegars. I've got some oregano and some basil, some pine and spruce and cedar. All of those are going to be more in the cleaning range. Along with like my orange vinegar, that's a great one. It's a good citrus scent. It's kind of like a citrus pine sol kind of a thing. You could mix any of the vinegars to create custom scents. But anyway, there's what I've learned, just kind of in summary, that if you want a stronger vinegar, you want to turn it into wine in an anaerobic environment. You don't want any oxygen to get into it. You want to add yeast, and that will help create a stronger vinegar in the end. If you want a good dipping vinegar out of these fresh fruit vinegars, then you want to reduce it down, at least by half. But what I did for these was a 2-day reduction, and it turned out great. I would maybe go to 3, possibly 4 days, depending on the volume of vinegar that you're putting through here. I'll overlay a picture of this vinegar here so that you can see where it starts and where it ends up. And yeah, that's the vinegar process. If you have any questions, let me know, but I'm just learning along the way and loving these vinegars. They're so tasty and so great for you. All right, have a great week, everyone.